Most importantly, right, all of these achievements had been possible only through sharp focus on operational excellence, and that is the topic that I'm going to talk about today. So I don't have any fancy presentation, so I'm not going to bore you with presentation, and I want this to be as interactive as possible. Would love to take questions from all of you in the room at any given point in time. Uh, so the objective for the day, as I mentioned, is going to be I want to share my ideas, my learnings over a period of time about how operationally every individual in the organization can excel, and how that would eventually contribute to the organization's success. So that's what I'm going to talk about. So to start off, right, can someone in the room tell me, or like if I don't know if the audio isn't enabled, that's not a problem. Like what does operational excellence mean to you? Like anyone, if you can tell me, what do you think operational excellence means?
Maybe it's about operational excellence, as you put it. Operation, that is any task performed, and excellence is being good at it, as far as I can tell. Is that it?
Yeah, you covered it almost. So I would probably extend, the explanation of what an operational excellence mean more from an organization perspective. Yeah, you are absolutely right. So operational excellence is nothing but how an individual and the organization can see clearly with clarity that how we drive customer value on every step that we make, right? Every activity you do, like every touch point that you have within your work. So all of this should drive towards one thing, which is delivering customer value at the highest order. So that's what operational excellence means, actually. Uh, and so I'll go about, like talking about how do we really go ahead and achieve this operational excellence in the day-to-day work that we do, right? Uh, so can someone tell me what are some of the best practices that you do on a daily basis? Uh, any example? Just like even one example would do, like, hey, because of doing this, my work becomes more efficient every single day. Can one of you say any best example or best practices examples?
I don't know if this counts, but there are times when, for instance, I'll give an example from my own work. If I'm making, say, for instance, a spreadsheet, an array of spreadsheets, even a bunch of them. So when I'm doing that, it might take some time, and because it takes so much time and so much effort, you have to be very precise with how you do it. You may want to take breaks from time to time. So does that count?
Definitely right. Burnout, awesome example. Thank you for that. Definitely right. When you're see for some of this routine activities, right, that you do time and again, every single day, like continuously do it. Definitely right. It you should, in fact, you're doing the right thing by taking that small break, right? Because right, uh, continuously doing this will cause more burnout, and it will lead to some of the errors that you might make. So definitely taking like a shorter break uh, would is going to help you from like focus again, get back the focus on what you're doing on a regular basis. So that's a great example. Thank you for that. Yeah. uh, so let me start with what does operational excellence means, and like there are various steps to achieve this, right? Like, so let me go through one by one. Uh, so how many of you really like set up goals and targets for yourselves, right, for your role? So, and how do you go about doing it? I know definitely that everyone would be doing it. So what is that one thing, like how do you go about setting your goals, defining your goals? Any idea, any anything that you want to share, like hey, this is why I have to set up a particular goal, and this is the role I'm performing. So any examples that anybody wants to share? Okay.
Just a second, sir.
Yeah.
All people, you can write your queries or write your response in Q&A section. Till time I am giving you the access to talk. Please write over there in Q&A section your replies.
Thank you. Yeah. So I already see a response saying, you do this for like cybersecurity certifications. Great, right? So again, right, goal setting for an individual becomes so important that defines your success and eventually the organizational success to demonstrate operational excellence. So for example, right, like how do you go about doing it? First, before you set up goals for yourselves, right, like try to understand, and it's a must, right, like not even try, that you should understand what your organization goals are, right, like for example, right, uh, take McDonald's, for example. So for McDonald's, the goal is, the core goal is, or the core, like success is providing, delivery on time, right, like quick customer delivery. So probably that could be McDonald's core organization goal, like delivering on time. uh, as against, like, for example, take a Starbucks. For Starbucks, it could all be about quality, the ambience. What do you love when you go and get into Starbucks, right? You love the ambience, you love the seating, you love the people around you, you love the facilities and things like that, right? So for Starbucks, right, it could be more around, like the great coffee, of course, that they provide, right? It's about all about quality, the ambience that they really provide to you. So similarly, right, so for your organization, you need to understand clearly that, what my organization wants to achieve actually as a goal. And then once you have a clarity around your organizational goals, then you start writing your goals based on whatever your organization goals is. Like, hey, if my organizational goal is to bring revenue for, like for 10 million, what can I contribute in my role to do that, right? Actually, so everyone has that, like a role to play. Every single member or individual within an organization has a role to play in succeeding the organization's goal. So, so definitely, right, as part of your goal setting, the first process is to understand what your organizational goals are, and then come up with your own individual goals which will contribute to the organizational success actually. uh, so, and also while defining these goals, right, like define SMART goals. When I say SMART goals, it's SMART goals, I think maybe some of you would have been aware, it's an acronym actually. So can someone tell me, like, or someone would know what SMART stands for, what stands for SM, and so on, when you define those SMART goals? All right, I can definitely help you there. So SMART goals, S is for specific. So the goal should be as specific as possible. Like you cannot have like an ambiguous goal, right? Like when you're defining your goals for the quarter or for the year or for the month, actually it has to be specific. It has to be measurable. So you say, like I'm going to complete many projects. Is that measurable? No, right? So you could be specific and say, like I'm going to complete 10 projects actually. So that is how you really qualitatively define your goal actually. And then achievable. Most of us, right, we at times become really ambitious in setting up goals, but the most important factor in setting up goals is to ensure that whether the goal is achievable or not actually. So ensure the goal is achievable and the goal is relevant. Like I said, right, so I could have many goals within the organization, but is that goal relevant to the work that I currently do? Is that goal relevant to what the organization wants to achieve actually? So that is why it is really important to have a relevant goal. And the goal should be, most importantly, last but not the least, it should be timely, right? So that's why you define goal. uh, any goal that you define should have a start date and end date actually. So that's how you ensure that that you can work on your goals and complete the goals in a timely manner. So that is how you define a SMART goal. And again, like I said, always remember that it should always align with whatever the organization needs. It it is very difficult to achieve a goal when you have like a big bang goal, right? For example, uh, if your goal is going to say, I want to be promoted to the next level, I want to move to the next level. That's like, that's like your big bang goal. But rather your goal should be like, let me do something extra out of my, like whatever is required out of my role, so that my work gets noticed actually. So this sort of, so I'm trying to answer both the questions together, how to break an overall goal into smaller goals. So for example, if your goal is going to be, I want to get promoted to a senior person within the organization. So what do I really need to do that? So the end goal is like, the bigger goal is like, I want to get promoted or I want to move to the next level. The smaller goals could be, like, let me come up and define a process on my own. So people achieve their goals or really move to the next level when they really do perform above and beyond whatever they do in their current role, right? And it does not necessarily mean you have to do something extraordinary, something path breaking or something like that. It could be as simple as, like, do like a small process change which would either benefit in reducing time, reducing money, making your work much efficient, making your work much easier. So anything, right, that contributes to efficiency and customer value, that is what a process should be about actually. And should not necessarily be, something really big bang and, like all at once. So definitely think about first the end goal, and the way to break it down to smaller goals is like, list down the activities that I need to achieve or I need to do to reach that end goal. So for example, right, someone spoke about, doing a certification. So for example, right, that's the end goal. Your way to break down into smaller goals is, right, like, if I'm going to do this, is this going to benefit me individually in terms of learning? Is this going to benefit me in terms of like, how do I grow in the organization? So before I do that, so one of the goals could be like, have made some groundwork about what are the different places that provide this certification, and am I really interested in if I'm really interested in doing this certification, do I have to do some prep work about doing this certification, like what it is all about before I go and enroll in the specific certification. So the list of activities that you really want to perform should be how you really break down your goals into smaller goals, and you end up achieving that end goal that you really want to achieve. So learning and development, right, is so underrated. So thanks for submitting that question, Sumit. Actually, it's so important that right, your personal goals are equally important as part of your growth. Actually, that's how you grow as an individual, right? As an overall individual within an organization, not just within the organization, but outside of work as well, right? It defines the person who you are. So, and how to do that? Like, really think about what you want to do, achieve within, like people say next 3 years and 5 years, right? Like 3 years and 5 years are far away. So set up small time goals, like I mentioned, like, probably the next 3 months, what do you want to achieve? Like, define those top 3 things that you want to achieve, like both personally and professionally. And then, right, like I said, put a timeline to it. So that's why the SMART goal philosophy is becomes so important, that you have to clearly define what you want to achieve and by when you want to achieve. Once you do that, right, that will really help you to set priorities, right? You like, again, Soumya had asked about like, how do we have to set goal as per priority or time wise? So definitely, right, they go hand in hand actually. So for example, right, if my priority, if my goal is to I might have a personal goal, like I want to learn tennis, I want to learn golf actually. I might also want to have personal goal, like I have to do like a part-time course in IIM. So you would definitely know, right, like which one takes priority. Is it me learning a sport? I'm not saying that either one is important or not important, but in terms of prioritizing those two goals actually, right? Like, of course, like doing a course in an IIM or wherever, right? It could be right? Like anything related to your professional and personal growth, that takes precedence or priority over you learning a sport, like, just for like for free time, doing it for free time actually. That's how you define priority based on how important it is for you for your professional and personal growth. Once you do that, right, like you can define timelines to it. For example, right, like coursework, I have to finish this certification within 3 months. I have to take this course within 3 months. So, and then, I can say, I can learn that sport maybe within 6 months. Yeah, maybe within 9 months. It should be totally fine, right? So definitely defining the goal that you want to professionally and personally achieve helps you to define priority and time associated with the goal. How to know when I'm a person, I'm whether overworking myself or slacking off amidst burnout? Awesome question, right? We always talk about uh, work-life balance, which has become the talk of the town, right? Like post-pandemic, right? Like everyone wants to understand, like am I available too much or am I available less, or how do I really balance my priority actually? The definitive way to figure out, like whether I'm overworking or slacking is to so when I come in for a day, right, it's nothing fancy, I really literally write down like what I have to achieve for the day and what I have to achieve for the week. When I say achieve, right, it's nothing big, like the list of activities, the list of things that are waiting for me for the day, and like these are the ones that have to get it done by today, and these are some of the works that have to let it done by end of like the week. That's enough for me. So as long as you're meeting all of your activities or performing all of your activities that you've defined for the day, and you're achieving it, that means that you have spent your day well, right? Like you have achieved whatever is required during your work hours actually. uh, and and anything above and beyond, right? For example, you have a weekly task that you want to achieve, you end up doing that, then maybe like your definitely there is a burnout factor, right? It can wait tomorrow. You have to just planned it over a period of next 5 days actually. Yeah. And how do you really define slacking off, right? It's always about the mindset. I'm not trying to give a philosophical answer here, but definitely, right. So I will tie this with procrastination. So delay is most dangerous, delaying the work that you want to achieve for the day. And it may not seem important today, but we all tend to do that. I tend to do that, like I tend to think at times, what, it's all right if I don't finish my this work today. I know it's part of my agenda today. If I do it tomorrow, that should be fine. So let me leave it for the next day. So you don't know what is going to come in for the next day. So what if you get something urgent? What if you get pulled into a critical issue or something? So then you realize, you go back and realize that you should have finished that work in the earlier day rather than waiting for the next day. So procrastination is dangerous, guys. Definitely that's when you tend to realize, you probably slacked a little bit the previous day, because of which now you're in a soup and you're not able to finish the rest of the work for the next day. So main problem is numerous things they go on the mind while doing something, how to avoid distraction, and we don't handle it to great. I know um, I I sort of answered this, but I'll just add again, rather repeat one more time. It's like that's why it's important to list down. So it is so underrated, right? All I do is like I have like a small diary or something. It need not be anything fancy. You could just a sticky note or whatever, right? Like I would love I'm a huge fan of sticky notes. So have that pasted in front of your laptop or your system, your daily notes, right? Like what you really need to do every single day. That will keep you from getting distracted, definitely, right? Because time and again, every minute you're reminded, these are, and once you do that, right, strike the top. It's as simple as that. You get a satisfaction by doing that. When I do something, when I perform activity, I just take my pen and strike it off, just to ensure that I've completed that activity. This definitely prevents you from getting into distraction or leading into other distractions and not able to do your work actually. So every single day, right, like take that ownership, individual ownership, and ensure that like any problem that you face, right, like always don't look for a band-aid solution, like for a temporary solution, and always look out for permanent solutions, right? So always think holistically, right? Like you may be able to fix that problem now, but what if that problem again happens again in future? So just don't think about the permanent solution, document it, communicate it, right? That becomes so important. That way, right, like you are definitely showing the value add for the organization, not for the organization, right? It's most importantly, right, whatever you do, eventually, like I'll keep repeating this, should drive customer values, right? It's them who pay us actually. So whenever you find an issue, always look for a permanent solution, and that definitely drives operational excellence. I'll get back to that question. If a person works better in a team and are given a task to do by themselves, what might be a good approach to go about this? So I think this is where the whole challenging part comes, right? I've seen the inverse as well, right? I've seen people come to me and say, I like to work as an individual contributor. I'm not too comfortable with the team. That's where, so there is something called, so each one, you have a different personality, right? And the beauty of it is, right, like you could be like an individual, best individual player. You could be a great team player and not, maybe I wouldn't use the word not so great, but you might not be too inclined towards not being an individual team player. So the way to go about it is, right, like meet them somewhere in the middle. For example, if you're given a task that you need to work on a team, right, and you are a team person, not an individual person, you might definitely reach out to other individuals to seek some input. You might not definitely, so right, it's not necessarily that you have to go out of your team or go out of your way to work with that individual and work individually, but or for yourself to work individually, but you could reach out to few individuals whom you think like they are expert in it, or whom you think they could give you valuable feedback. So definitely reach out to that person, get that feedback, and pass on that feedback to the team. So that definitely would help you to start collaborating with that person. Also understand the styles, right? That's the word I was looking out for. We all have our individual styles, right? Like we exhibit different personalities, but the best way to go about it is like where you meet the other person, and again the inverse, right? Or the reverse, right? Like you are an individual member and you're not too inclined to work in a team. Definitely, for example, right, like go and sit in a team meeting just to understand what happens, right? Go and sit in a scrum call or whatever. You can be a silent observer, you need not participate actively if you don't like that, but that would give us at least a starting point or an insight to understand why it is important to be a team player as well. Yeah. So hope that sort of answers your. You said to look for permanent solution instead of quick ones that only fixes issues temporarily. What if permanent solutions end up introducing other issues in the long run? Is that something that residual problem that can be fixed, or it just depend on the context? Amazing question, Pratyay. Again, right? There is something called, so this is some new concept which has come in the recent years, something called fail quickly. As you rightly pointed out, right? You might look out for permanent fixes, and in turn, right, tomorrow there could be something as a residue of it or an extension of it, which could prop up another problem. But embrace that, right? Embrace failure. And when I said fail quickly, right, that's where this whole term called agility comes in. So you put in a fix, you suddenly understand, or maybe like down the lane, right, or in the long run, like you have rightly asked, that you understand that that something is not working because of the permanent solution that you have put actually. So definitely, right, instead of waiting for that long time period, right, be agile and start implementing that permanent fix, validate that permanent fix, and go back to that permanent fix like time and again, right? Like revisit that permanent fix and validate that permanent fix, whether it still holds good, right? That's where this whole process of continuous improvement comes in. And when I said fail quickly, once you do that and validate and understand, right, like probably there are some gaps with the permanent solution, you can do the course correction then and there. So that's where this whole term called fail quickly comes, and like you can be agile enough to fix the problem sooner than later and need not really wait for the longer time. And some things, if it can't be fixed, right, let's admit it can't be fixed, right? So it's not necessary, or it's literally impossible to have fixed for every single problem, give a fix for every single problem that you have, but definitely ensure or assess the impact on the fix, right? Like if it's just a residual issue, that's not going to have a major impact. It's just a minor impact. Probably it's a documentation gap or a small process gap that eventually, that's a roadblock that you have to deal with, or a bottleneck that you have to deal with. No issues at all. Like go ahead and deal with it, but ensure that that doesn't impact the overall issue for which you provided the resolution for. Moving on, right? Also, I want to specifically, when it comes to operational excellence, right, I want to touch upon the topic of quality, right? It's such a wide topic. When I say quality, right, it again ties back to your goal. What does quality mean to you in the work that you do? So typically in the manufacturing industry, right, like which everyone, we are all part of, like be it even in IT industry, right, like the quality of work is so important at every single juncture, right? Like it's as simple as you would be surprised to hear this. People are really evaluated for writing and correct or a quality email. It might seem so simple for you, but that's how quality is monitored at every step, right? Like a small spelling mistake, like a small grammatical error, that sort of gives an impression on who you are and how seriously you take your job, right? So, and to do this, right, to achieve this, right, like quality work, define, like I said, right, as part of your SMART goals, what does quality means for you in your work, and specifically on the goals you set. For example, customer satisfaction. What is a quality customer satisfaction score? So, for example, if the score is 10, where you qualitatively say, 9 and above is the score that I want to achieve for customer satisfaction for every customer CSAT survey that goes out on your work, actually. So if you are a developer, how bug free my code is, when I'm developing a program. It could be such a small program or a big program. I'm not saying it can be 100% efficient, but that's how you define your quality. Like how many sprint cycles, like I'm going to take, and how bug free my code is going to be when I give it to the customer. It's not internally, again, right? Like everything drives value to customer. So when tomorrow customer is going to use my product, like he or she is going to have a seamless experience, actually. So definitely that's how you attach quality to the work that you do, and it's a must that every single function that you perform or activity that you perform, quality should be attached to it to deliver operational excellence. So